in our number 10 spot, we have cannibalism. While there has been proof of cannibalism for as long as humans have existed, some research suggests that some of it may have been tied to ancient cult rituals. The analysis of a 15,000-year-old forearm showed that cannibalism may have been a part of a funeral tradition. The bone was found in the Guff Cave in England, and it showed unusual patterns engraved in it. Researchers aren't exactly sure what these practices would have entailed entirely, but it is said to have been a respectful practice in this scenario. In our number 9 spot today, we have hallucinogens. Hallucinogens have been a popular part of rituals for quite some time. They've been used for thousands of years to gain spiritual insight or even to communicate with deities. There have been cave drawings found in Africa, Asia, and South America that depict hallucinogenic mushrooms and other similar plants. The oldest written records of the use of these types of plants comes from around 3,000 years ago. There are also historical records from ancient Athenians about a drink called kykeon, which would put people into a trance-like state and was consumed in religious ceremonies called Eleusinian mysteries. Kykeon would be made with barley, and it is said that the barley would have been infested with the parasite ergot, and that the drink would have caused effects similar to an LSD trip. In our number 8 spot today, we have animal sacrifices. Animal sacrifice is fairly well documented throughout history and has been included in many different rituals. Ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Persia would place an entire animal on the fire and burn it, or would bury the animal. Ancient Greek religions would see the sacrifice of domestic animals accompanied by hymn and prayers. There would be an entire procession prior to the sacrifice, and the meat of the animal would be prepared for eating. Scythians would usually sacrifice livestock, but the most prestigious offering would be a horse.
Number 7. Freedomites, aka Sons of Freedom. In Saskatchewan, Canada, Daokober people had a small group within them called the Sons of Freedom. The Daokober people were a spiritual Christian group that originated from Russia, and the Sons of Freedom were a cult that came out of them during a time of economic tensions. The Sons of Freedom stood for communal living, nudity, and anarchy. They were mainly known for their public demonstrations they performed in the nude. The demonstrations were to show their strong opposition to the materialistic tendencies of society, but they went further than peaceful demonstrations. Completely against the typically pacifist ways of the Daokober people, they committed acts of terror in the name of their beliefs. They committed arson and bombing to homes, government buildings, churches, schools, and railroads. Number 6. The Order of the Solar Temple. Now, I feel like anytime we talk about a cult here, this one comes up, but it's not without a valid reason. The ritual of this cult was ritual death. After having a ritualistic Last Supper, 53 members killed themselves either by using poison, bullets, smothering, or other causes. In a sect of the cult in Switzerland, in an underground temple, the bodies were found laid out in a circle. Their feet were all touching and their heads, covered in plastic bags, were outwards. Later on, in France, bodies of members from the cult were found out laid in the same manner. Altogether, the cult practices resulted in the deaths of 74 people. Number 5. Superior Universal Alignment. Valentina de Andrade led a UFO cult in the 80s. She claimed she received a message from extraterrestrials that God didn't exist and that Jesus was an alien. She also said that true believers would be saved from the end times, but one group could not leave with her on her spaceship. She believed boys born after 1981 were possessed by evil and had to be purged. With some families, she told the parents of those boys to leave them with other family members and then they could board their spaceship. But her views changed. By 1993, members of the cult are believed to have sexually assaulted, mutilated, or killed at least 19 boys between 8 and 13 years old. Some were even castrated. Andrade herself was acquitted of all charges since she wasn't in the area when the crimes were committed, but her words were enough to persuade her followers. At number 4, the Church of Sacrifice. Back in 1912 in Lafayette, Louisiana, Clementine Barnabette was a high priestess of the Church of Sacrifice. At only 18, she led a cult with a belief system that riches and immortality could be gained through human sacrifice. She wasn't all talk either. She confessed to axing 17 people to death, including 2 families because they refused to obey the messages from God, and apparently she convinced the followers of her church to do the same gruesome killings. All in all, the cult in its entirety brutally killed 7 families, a number amassing to 40 people. At number 3, the Ant Hill Kids. Roch Thoreau had a doomsday cult between 1977 and 1989. The way he exercised his power only got worse and worse as time went on. This man who called himself Moses didn't have too many rituals, but the way he disciplined was routinely similar. If anyone did anything he deemed out of line, they were up for punishment, and it didn't take much to get there. Thoreau demanded absolute loyalty, and if that wasn't given, he would get angry and punish his followers. He would punch people in the stomach or hit them with a 4-inch thick club if they ate more than their given portion of food, and not even pregnant women were spared. He forced the members of his commune to break their own legs with sledgehammers, shoot each other in the shoulders, and eat each other's feces or their own. He would have people stand naked in any weather, sun, rain, or snow, if they acted out of line. He even nailed children to trees and prompted others to throw rocks at them. Beyond that, he plucked out people's hairs one by one if he got really angry. At number 2, the Fall Rivers Cult. This cult was led by Carl Drew, a pimp that believed he was the son of Satan. In rituals in the woods, he would speak in voices and tongues. But there wasn't anything too scandalous or illegal in the cult taking place until Drew decided sacrifices need to be made. Human sacrifices. The first victim was beaten and stoned to death while tied up with a fishing line. The next was killed the same way, arranged on a makeshift kind of altar. The last victim chosen was the one that witnessed the first murder. She was going to talk to the police, but Drew found out. He sacrificed her the same way as the other 2 women. But after that, he also broke her neck with his bare hands, got another cult member to slit her throat, cut an X into her chest, and used the blood to draw an X on the other cult member's forehead. After that, he kicked the victim's head until it came off. And at number 1, the Chicago Rippers. This is another one I've mentioned before, but their rituals are truly disturbing. The core of their rituals was the mutilation and murder of women. The leader, Robin Gecht, and his 3 followers were horrifying in their acts. They would kidnap a woman and bring them back to the leader's apartment. Then the ritual would begin. The ritual involved taking turns sexually assaulting the victim at Gecht's apartment, then removing a body part with piano wire. From there, it got more disturbing. One of the victims survived the ritual and being dumped by railroad tracks. When she was found, she described the group and they were apprehended and brought to justice, thankfully.
Coming in at number 10 is Deal with the Devil. According to traditional Christian beliefs about witchcraft, the pact between a person and the devil or another demon, trading a soul for diabolical favors, which vary by the tale, but tend to include youth, knowledge, wealth, fame, and power. It's also believed that some people made this type of pact just as a sign of recognizing the minion as their master in exchange for nothing. Now this bargain is a dangerous one, as the price for the devil's service is the wagerer's soul. For most religions, the tale may have a bad end, with eternal damnation for the venturer. The pact can either be oral or written, and an oral pact may be made by means of invocations, conjurations, or rituals to attract the demon, and once the conjurer thinks the demon is present, they ask for the wanted favor and offer their soul in exchange, and no evidence is left of the pact. Now most people who do these types of deals are vying for fame and fortune, and there's been many stories of people selling their soul to become famous. Necronomicon Ritual. The Necronomicon is also referred to as the Book of the Dead and is considered one of the most haunted books of all time. You can find scary figures on each page of this book, and you can contact your loved ones who are not alive. It contains the exact way to contact the dead souls, but be warned, bringing back the dead is not for the weak. Conjuring dead spirits isn't always what it seems and can end in disaster. Necronomicon has also appeared in famous series like Friday the 13th and Evil Dead series. Currently, its original copy is kept in a locker of Massachusetts Mistaudic University. Number 8. Black Mass. A cult in Mexico holds a black mass that is incredibly disturbing. Worshippers indulge in brutal animal sacrifice, dance before burning pentagrams, and disappear into a subterranean cave where solemn oaths are sworn before a large statue of the devil and a committee of shamans. Enrique Vernon organizes the annual mass at his ceremonial grounds on White Monkey Mountain to the west of the town. Our black magic stems from Native American Olmeca culture, and we are experts in calling upon the devil and his dark power, said Chief Shaman Enrique Verdon. People come to our devil summoning ceremonies when they want to achieve a change in their lives, he said. Now some come to ask Satan to give them success in the future, others come to get over their difficult past. We are calling upon Satan, the prince of the earth, to appear before us, they say in the ceremony. The sacrifice of animals for display has been outlawed in the state of Veracruz, but is nevertheless still widely practiced in the devil worshipping communities communities of the rural areas where this ceremony took place. It is said that the 8 shamans gathered around each individual penitent and swore oaths to the effect that their soul now belonged to Satan, and that if their promise to the devil were not upheld, then their spirit would be forfeit. The committee of shamans screamed "Hail Lucifer" following each new oath and prostrated themselves before the statue, over which the remaining blood from the sacrificial offerings had been poured.
In our number 7 spot today, we have initiation. Initiation was often part of ancient cults, and while sometimes it was as simple as some fees or contributions, sometimes it took a bit of a darker turn. Part of the initiation into the Eleusinian mysteries was bringing your own victim to sacrifice. After the sacrificial process was finished, the people hoping for initiation would take themselves and their sacrifice to the ocean to be cleaned. It was recorded in 339 BC that during this cleansing part of the ritual, one of the people was actually eaten by a shark. I guess taking a sacrificed animal into the ocean may not have been the best decision in retrospect, but it was necessary to purify them before entry into the cult. In our number 6 spot today, we have blood showers. There's not much known about the cult of Mithras, as it was extremely secretive. Most of what we know is from the underground temple cave drawings in the Mithraeum cave. The drawings depict Mithras, who was known as the protector of the empire, killing a bull and meeting the sun. While their secrets and their practices are fairly unknown, one thing that is known is this kind of disgusting practice that they had. They would sacrifice a bull, but then they would bathe in its blood, which is honestly something straight out of a horror movie. This is also recorded in the cult of Kiveli. There was an initiation ritual where they would slaughter a bull and then shower in its blood. In our number 5 spot today, we have the piercing of ears and the cutting of the tongue. This was a popular ritual in ancient Mayan religion. The ear and the tongue blood were the most sacred of all the blood. The ear piercing was done so that they could be opened to be able to hear God's revelations. By cutting their tongues, they then would be able to speak what they had heard. This ritual was conducted so that the words of the gods could continue to be passed down and communicated between the people. The ear piercing might not have been that bad, but the tongue cutting just seems super painful. In our number 4 spot today, we have drinking blood mixed with wine. Wine has always played a huge role in Dionysus mysteries. People were interested in understanding the life cycle of the grapevine because it was believed to embody the living God. People believed that the intoxication from the wine was due to the possession of God's spirit. It is said that one of their rituals was to mix the blood of a sacrifice with their wine before drinking. I honestly couldn't find out why they did this, but it's just so gross and I had to include it. In our number 3 spot today, we have emasculation. This isn't necessarily the best word for it, but there are some words that we just cannot use on this channel. The cult of Kiveli was eventually joined by the cult of Attis, with the story saying that Attis was a mortal who rejected Kiveli and her romantic feelings for him. This led Kiveli to punish him with a madness that caused him to cut off his own you-know-what, which led to his death. Kiveli then felt bad and pleaded to Zeus, who then resurrected Attis. This is where the ritual was born. During this era, all of the priests of Kiveli would publicly emasculate themselves in order to try and be reborn one day. In our number 2 spot today, we have dismemberment. The Dionysus mysteries had a ritual of dismemberment, which is certainly one of the more disturbing things on this list. The reason for this ritual leads back to the story of Dionysus and how he was resurrected by his father, Zeus, after he was torn apart by Titans. The ritual is done with the person being dismembered representing Dionysus himself. This gruesome sacrifice is done with the hope that Dionysus would be reborn. I suppose this one kind of makes sense in a roundabout way, but it just seems really scary to me, I'm not gonna lie. In our number 1 spot today, we have the heart being torn out. The ancient Mayan religion was one that practiced human sacrifice, and while I'm not sure that there's any sacrifice that isn't gruesome, this one is pretty bad. The ritual would have the human who was being sacrificed tied up by the arms and the legs in front of a priest. The priest would then cut their chest open, which is just bad enough already, but then he would reach inside and tear their heart out. This sacrifice was done in order to satisfy the gods, and because it was believed that it would guarantee order in the world. Pretty crazy.
Number 10. The Agori. The Aghori is a religious cult that broke away from the Hindu religion in the 14th century. They believe everything is God and they chase spiritual liberation with their acts. Some of their more tame rituals involve drinking urine and eating human feces, or smothering human ashes on their faces. And those are the tame ones. Their most important ritual to them is called Shav Putra, and for it they need human corpses. That in itself is hard to find in the area as nearly everyone is cremated. Those who aren't cremated, usually because the family can't afford it, are sometimes dumped into the Ganges River. So to find corpses, the Aghori monks fish them out of the river. Now, once they have a dead body, they meditate on it and then chop the head off as it holds the most energy. After that, some of the Aghoris eat the flesh of the body, cannibalistically, unfortunately. Now, this all stems from the belief that they can't please God if they don't do this human sacrifice. They even keep the skulls of the dead as a reminder of the impermanence of life. Quite Hamlet, if I do say so myself. At number 9, the Vampire Clan. So in the 90s, a 16-year-old named Ron Farrell was also apparently a 500-year-old vampire. Identify as you want, man. But Farrell, or Vestago, his vampy alter ego, was a part of a vampire cult. This little clan made up of 3 other teens would engage in rituals where they would drink one another's blood. Does that sound sanitary? No. But is that the scariest thing they did? Also no. In 1996, the 2 boy vampires of the group thought vigilantes of themselves and decided to help out a friend. Farrell had an old friend from high school he went to in Florida, and she told him she was miserable living at home with her folks. And I think I know what you're thinking. Did they kidnap her? No, much worse. The 2 vigilante vampiric teens beat both of her parents to death with a crowbar. Then Visago burned a letter V into the girl's father's body. When he was found out, he received a life sentence for the murders. Number 8, the Birdman Cult. On Easter Island, one era of inhabitants was the Birdman Cult era. The people of Easter Island, the Rapa Nui, came up with an interesting yearly ritual to determine who led them. The eventual leader would be seen as supreme ruler for a year and would be encouraged to take on a bird-like appearance, growing out their nails and shaving their head. But to get that position, their chosen champion would have to succeed in a very tough competition. These chosen champions would dive down tall steep cliffs and swim to an inlet where they would have to grab an egg from a Suri Tern or a Manutera and bring it back unbroken. So swim all the way back and climb up a sheer cliff face, all with an unbroken egg. And that makes holding an egg in a spoon sound like a piece of cake, right? But the first champion to bring back an egg led to the leader they represented becoming ruler. But obviously many didn't make it all the way through the competition. Many died from falls they took, sharks, or the cutthroat edge of the competition. On to
number 7, the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon is an anonymously authored grimoire on sorcery. It was compiled in the mid-17th century, mostly from materials several centuries older. It is divided into 5 books as it is based on the Testament of Solomon and the ring mentioned within it that he used to seal demons. The book contains passages on how to conjure spirits of the dead and demons, and how to control these entities to do your bidding. Topics like how to become invisible and locate missing or stolen items are covered. Recipes for love potions and liqueurs of persuasion are also scattered throughout the book. Now, for centuries, the book has been followed by rumors that it's cursed, with the spell so dark that anyone who has a copy of the book on their shelf will face certain doom. Now, the curse doesn't specify what will happen if you own a copy, but I wouldn't risk it. Those who have owned it have reported strange occurrences like pages turning on their own and books violently flying across the room. Strange whispers and shadow creatures have also been reported by owners of the manual. Number 6, Voodoo. Voodoo practices largely revolve around interactions with the Aiwa, which are spirits and incorporate song, drumming, dance, prayer, possession, and animal sacrifice. Practitioners gather together for services in which they commune with the Aiwa. Ceremonies for the particular Aiwa often coincide with the feast of the Roman Catholic saint, which that Aiwa was associated with. Now, the purpose of the ritual is to enshof, heat things up, thus bringing about change, whether that be to remove barriers or facilitate healing. Now, secrecy is important in voodoo. It is an initiatory tradition operating through a system of graded induction or initiation. When an individual agrees to serve an Aiwa, it is deemed a lifelong commitment. Not to mention that voodoo has a strong oral culture, and their teachings are primarily passed down through oral transmission. Number 5. The Book of Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. Abramelin was a strange father, to say the least, as he gave his young son a book full of mythical curses. Since it was translated to English in 1900, this 15th century novel has a reputation for being cursed. Now, there are several theories why, but most believe it has to do with the mage's belief that everybody has their own unique personal demon. Throughout this book, readers could learn rituals that bring their personal demons under control. They could learn to perform supernatural feats using sigils of magic words on grids, but this book has a huge downside. It's believed that anyone with a copy in their possession will be haunted by spirits from another realm. They'll also experience terrible luck that will ultimately bring about their demise. Now, paranormal enthusiasts know that it's risky to reach out and communicate with the spirit world, especially when it comes to demons, so it's not surprising that readers of this book have reported bad luck and hauntings by spirits from another realm. Number 4. The Grand Grimoire. The Grand Grimoire, nicknamed the Gospel of Satan, isn't really a book I'd want to read. Now, this book is said to be written by a man possessed by the devil. The 16th century book is known as one of the most terrifying occult books in existence. It contains dark incantations and instructions on how to summon demons and raise spirits from the dead. The last part may sound appealing to those who are grieving or suffering from loss, but this book's dark reputation makes it one of the most feared medieval manuscripts of all time. Even opening the book is considered the equivalent to selling your soul to the devil. Thankfully, the Grand Grimoire is not available for purchase due to this, and I mean, who would even want to buy that? It's said that the original copy is currently kept in the Vatican secret archives and not currently available to the public, and I think that is a good call. Number 3. Soul transfers. People who have done the soul transfer ritual claim that performing the ritual will send one's consciousness into the nexus of possibility. This nexus is said to neither bend to time nor space. While here, a person can view their life as if every possible decision they ever made turned out for the better. One would be able to gaze into their own personal heaven, and for 24 hours, or roughly 30 minutes when it's translated into real world's time, the ritual performer will live in this paradise. However, while this ritual isn't incredibly complicated, the chance that it could go horribly wrong is significant. It's said that although your consciousness is somewhere else, your body can still move and vocalize in the normal world. While normally this is only minor shifting and grunts, some people who have done this ritual have been known to scream, get up from their chair, drop a mirror in their hand, and actually talk to guards outside of their door. It's said that you may do this ritual as many times as you wish, however, once is usually enough. Number 2. Hoodoo. It's important to note that hoodoo is a closed practice, but nevertheless, they have one ritual called the bottle tree. According to gardener and glass bottle researcher Felder Rushing, the use of bottle trees came to the Old South from Africa with the slave trade. The use of blue bottles is linked to the Haint Blue spirit specifically. Now, according to academic research, bottle trees originated in the Congo region of Central Africa. African-descended people in the African diaspora decorated trees with bottles, plates, pieces of broken pots, and other items to drive away evil. Now, this practice was brought to the United States during the transatlantic slave trade. The purpose of bottle trees is to protect a home or location from evil spirits by trapping evil spirits inside the bottles. The spirits are said to be attracted to the sunlight that is seen flickering inside the bottle. As the sunlight passes through it, the spirit is trapped in the bottle and banished with sunlight. Sometimes items such as stones or graveyard dirt are placed inside the bottle to further attract the spirit to the bottle in order to trap it. And coming in at number 1 is human sacrifice. Human sacrifice is the act of ending the life of one or more humans as part of a ritual. Now, you may think this is all made up, but it actually happens. In 1963, a small cult in Nuevo Leon, Mexico, founded by two brothers Santos and Caetano Hernandez, committed between 8 and 12 homicides during bloody rituals that included drinking human blood. Now, the cult was initially a scam to obtain money and sexual favors favors. But after a prostitute entered the organization, she inaugurated human sacrifices inspired by ancient Aztec rituals as a method to control disciples. Then in the 1980s, another case of serial slayings that involved human sacrifice rituals occurred in Mexico. The drug dealer and cult leader Adolfo Constanzo orchestrated several executions during rituals that included the victims' dismemberment. This included having their brains removed and boiled in a pot, wire inserted through their spinal column, amputation at the knees, and buried at their ranch. In total, there were 15 victims. Adolfo told his followers that human sacrifice granted them immunity from law enforcement for their drug smuggling operations. Now, Adolfo and the rest of the cult went on the run when detectives discovered their shrine. Now, there have also been other cases of suspected human sacrifices in the 21st century.
In our number 10 spot, we have Angel's Landing. In the early 2000s, there was a cult by the name of Angel's Landing, which was also the name of the site the cult would meet in Wichita, Kansas. Lou Castro, also known as Daniel Perez, was the leader of this cult, and his followers were convinced that he was an angel. He had also convinced his followers that he was a seer, aka a fortune teller or a psychic, and he would perform ceremonies where he would predict their future and know when they were going to die. Of course, it's because he himself was going to kill them, but before doing so, he took out life insurance policies on them and then cashed in that money for luxury vehicles and items. Wow. The death prediction would have been a red flag to me, but clearly these people were in a very vulnerable state to believe that. Thankfully, Lou was found guilty for 28 crimes and has been sentenced to life in prison. Hallelujah. In our number 9 spot, we have the Great White Brotherhood. This is a known Australian cult that was founded by Anne Hamilton Byrne. In the 1960s, Anne was a yoga teacher who actually believed herself to be Jesus Christ. She teamed up with parapsychologist Raynor Johnson to form the cult, and over a few years, Anne adopted 28 young ones by receiving them as gifts from members, as well as by falsifying papers to convince others to give their children up for adoption. The goal? To create a master race that would survive the apocalypse that was believed to be coming. She would tell these humans that she was Jesus Christ, and if they went against any of her wishes, they would be beaten, starved, or dosed with an illicit drug. The cult was eventually raided and everyone was removed, and Anne was charged. But get this, she was only charged for falsifying birth certificates. That's it. She died actually from dementia in 2019 at 98, but never received any further punishment. Wow. In our number 8 spot, we have the Children of God. Also known as Teens for Christ, it was founded in 1968 by preacher David Berg in California. It attracted the hippies of the day, as this cult preached the words of Jesus and the Bible, but with more of an open twist to the free love movement of the time. There were horrible ritual acts, such as the one that was called flirty fishing, where women would perform acts of giving themselves in different inappropriate ways to get men into the cult. Mainly everyone in the cult didn't work, and there were about 15,000 members around the world. Allegedly, actors Joaquin Phoenix and Rose McGowan grew up in Children of God communes. Pretty wild. In our number 7 spot, we have the Midnight Man. This is a game that has become quite known in the last while. However, everyone that plays this game advises to never ever play this game. Many people have reported hallucinations and permanent mental scars that are just not worth the risk. Apparently at midnight you are supposed to summon the Midnight Man by calling out to him, and then you are supposed to run around your house and you have to try to not get caught by him. At 3:33 a.m. it is said that if you were not caught, then you have won the game. Apparently this was a game that was an old pagan ritual that was used to punish anyone that disobeyed the religion. Yeah, as psychological torture, for sure. Coming up in our number 6 spot, we have Daruma Sun. This is a bath ritual that was created in Japan, and it honestly feels like a story my brother would make up because the things you have to do will possibly make you laugh. It made me laugh, but I laugh easily. This is a ritual that people do so that they can have the lovely experience of a ghost chasing them around all day long, and if they don't manage to capture the ghost, because yes, you are supposed to capture her, then she will follow you into your dreams. Yikes. Apparently you summon her while in the tub while washing your hair. You're supposed to say, "Daruma-san fell down," over and over. Then she's supposed to appear and show you that she fell onto the bathtub where she was impaled through the eye. The next day she's supposed to chase you everywhere, and you are supposed to capture her by looking over your right shoulder, and you're supposed to yell "Kita" and do a karate chop movement with your hand. No, I'm not making this up. Just stay away from this ritual. It's a crazy one. In our number 5 spot we have One Man Hide and Seek. This is another Japanese game that you may want to play if you're looking for a reason to crawl under your covers and never leave the comfort of your bed again. This game is called Hitori Kakurembo, and when playing this game, you are playing hide and seek with a possessed doll. Yeah, how is this real? I'm terrified. Basically, you're supposed to de-stuff a doll and replace its insides with rice, along with a piece of your fingernail. Sew the doll's opening with a red thread and wrap the remaining thread around the doll. You're then supposed to give the doll a name and place it in the bathtub with some water. Then you're advised to quickly go to your hiding place and turn off the lights. Apparently you're then supposed to take a giant sip of salt water and without swallowing it, go and look for the doll. It's not supposed to be in the tub anymore. God, I can see why this game may be tempting to play, but also terrifying. In our number 4 spot we have the closet game. This one shouldn't be so hard to convince you to never play, because this one requires you to summon a demon! Yeah, a demon. Why, oh why, was this game invented? Holy moly. Basically, there is no objective but to feel the most amount of fear, probably for the adrenaline junkies of the world. Apparently, you're supposed to go into a pitch black closet, hold up an unlit match, and say, "Show me the light or leave me in darkness." Apparently when you hear a whisper, you have to immediately light your match or the demon will grab you and pull you into eternal darkness. Ah, lovely. If you successfully light your match and get out of the closet, then you won. But just know that you can never look inside your closet ever again, because it will forever be haunted by a demon. In our number 3 spot we have the Elevator to Another World ritual game. This is a game that you would play if you want to have the experience of going to another world. Sounds pretty PG, but with playing games like this, you never know what could happen and you should be careful. All you have to do is find a building with at least 10 floors and make sure to be riding alone. Then press this combo, 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5. On the 5th floor, a woman will enter. Do not look at her. Then the elevator will ascend to the 10th floor, where you can get out and observe a new world. When you want to go home, get back in the elevator and press the same combo. This sounds so cool, but apparently people have had some crazy experiences from it, so maybe proceed with caution. In our number 2 spot we have the Dry Bones Ritual. Another game to summon a demon. There is no reason for this. Why, people? This game apparently is done with the objective to win a prize. I don't know what prize. It will be different for every person, but it's supposed to be something good. You're supposed to have a mirror, a candle, and some matches. Go into your room at 12:01 a.m. on a night when you're completely alone. You're supposed to stare at your reflection in the mirror and listen for any noise or whispers. If you hear something, leave your house right away, as that means the demon's there. If it's silent, then you just think about your prize that you want. You're then supposed to light the candle with the match. Don't blow out the match yourself, but wait for it to burn out on its own. Then lie down on the floor and say, "I am aware of your presence and I welcome you into my home. Come now." After that, go to the largest room in your house and wait for a moaning noise. If you hear it, the hide and seek game has started. If you manage to hide from the demon until 3 a.m., then you win. You must say, "Thank you for playing, but please leave now. You are no longer welcome" to the demon. The demon will leave once you hear a groan. You can expect your prize the next day on your doorstep. If you don't win, The consequences could be dire. I couldn't find out any other testimonials, so maybe this game is just not worth the risk. In our number 1 spot, we have the Ouija board. I am personally not a fan of this game, as I personally had a very traumatic experience with it when I was only 11, and it took many years of therapy to work through the psychological impact that it had. I'm not joking. This is the number 1 game that I would advise that you do not play, but of course that's my opinion and bias, so do whatever you like. However, you have been warned. This is a board game that was invented in 1890. Yep, it's quite old. It was invented as a tool for mediums and everyday people to connect with the dead and pass along messages. Over the last 100+ years, it has become more known due to Hollywood movies, but it was a game that actually grew to popularity through word of mouth. Of course, Catholic and Christian religious groups everywhere advised against it because it is not particularly a positive tool. It's a game that opens a portal to the dead, and you never know who you're communicating with. It could be good spirits and it could be bad. Some believe that the bad spirits will haunt the player if they are unlucky to channel them and will drive them to insanity. Regardless of whether that is true or not, it could be psychologically damaging to anyone that remotely believes in good or evil, heaven and hell, or any kind of afterlife. Coming up in our number 10 spot, we have a game called Three Kings. This is a ritual game that is said to be something that you would play when wanting to connect with beings from another dimension, or perhaps even connect with your subconscious. Some have joked that it is actually a game that is a form of therapy and can help the practitioner understand themselves better. Basically, through setting the scene in a dark basement with 2 large mirrors, 3 chairs, a pack of candles, and an object from your childhood, you are supposed to be able to get in contact with a being. At around 3:30 a.m. in the morning, you are supposed to go to the scene with a burning candle and sit down on one of the chairs at 3:33 a.m. with your candle. You're supposed to look into the darkness, not the candle or the mirrors, and eventually you will be approached by a being. An entity, if you will. Look, whether you believe in this game or not, I personally think it could be deeply psychologically damaging if you play it. So just don't do it, okay? I feel like the gym teacher from Mean Girls. Just don't do it, okay? In our number 9 spot, we have Bloody Mary. This ritualistic game has been widely known due to pop culture and Hollywood movies. It's a ritual you perform in order to bear witness to a woman named Mary that is bloody, who is believed to be a vengeful witch spirit, not the Virgin Mary. You're supposed to hold a candle up to a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times, and the witch is supposed to reveal herself. There are mixed experiences from people that have done this ritual. Some say they were disappointed, and others have expressed being terrified from encountering the spirit. Some have stated that people that play the game experience Bloody Mary's wrath and could possibly be strangled, cursed, or get their souls taken. What? Well, not sure if I believe this to be real, but heck, it's dark enough that you should probably stay away from it. In our number 8 spot, we have the Hooded Man. This is a weird ritual as it doesn't necessarily seem all that bad, but there are people that believe that it has the potential to be bad if the player does not return. So let me explain. So this is a ritual that you would play if you were someone interested in possibly traveling to another dimension. Before even doing the ritual, you are supposed to cleanse your space, or cleanse yourself. Then when it is night, you're supposed to go to a room with a phone and you basically make a call for a cab. If you have succeeded, you're supposed to see a black cab pull up and you're supposed to get into it. Lock the doors and fall asleep. This seems highly dangerous and risky, but okay, people that think this isn't that bad. If you wake up and it's 3:30 a.m., then you'll fall asleep again and find yourself in the back of a cab with a hooded man driving in the front seat. You're supposed to look out the window and see another world. If you want to leave, you're supposed to whisper to the hooded man, "I have reached my destination now," and you shall be returned home. Some believe this game to be bad because if you get caught up in the other world and don't try to leave, then you might not return. Honestly, I'd be more worried about getting into a cab of someone you don't know and falling asleep. Yikes, just don't play this game ever.
In our number 7 spot today, we have lighting candles. Candles are often used to create a certain ambiance, a vibe, to symbolize different aspects of the ritual and to invoke spiritual energy or entities. The use of specific colors of candles is believed to have different meanings and may be chosen based on the purpose of the ritual. For example, green candles may be used to attract wealth or abundance, while white candles may be used to represent purity or to invite divine energy. If you want to summon the devil, would you use red? I don't know. In some traditions, candles may also be used to represent the elements, with different colors representing earth, air, fire, and water. The act of lighting candles can also be a way to focus the mind and create a sacred space for the ritual. And by lighting candles, the practitioner may be able to connect with the inner self or the higher spiritual energies and to bring their intentions into focus. So I guess next time you're smelling candles before you buy them, think of what scent the devil might be. I feel like he has some notes of cinnamon and brimstone coming this fall to a Bath & Body Works near you. In our number 6 spot today, we have incantations. An incantation is a series of words or phrases that are believed to have a certain power or effect, often in a language that is not commonly spoken, like Latin, for example. The recitation of incantations can be a way to focus the mind and to channel spiritual energy, and it is often accompanied by specific movements or gestures. Or I guess in the case of witches, it could sort of act like a magical spell vibe. In some traditions, the incantation may be sung or chanted in a repetitive manner, creating a hypnotic or trance-like state. The purpose of reciting they're just cantations now. The purpose of reciting incantations can vary widely, from attracting love or prosperity to banishing negative energy or entities, or to summon entities. The use of incantations is often based on the belief that words have a certain power or vibration, and that by speaking certain words, the practitioner can tap into this power and create a desired outcome. Sort of like manifesting, but I guess it's like manifesting the devil. In our number 5 spot today, we have sacrifice. Some depictions of witchcraft involve the sacrifice of animals or humans as part of the ritual. This can be done as a way to appease the devil or to gain favor in exchange for the sacrifice. In reality, the vast majority of practitioners of witchcraft do not engage in animal or human sacrifice, and such practices are widely condemned by mainstream spiritual and religious groups, which feels very important to note. But that's not to say it's never happened before at a terrifying occult ritual. In fictional depictions, the sacrifice of animals or humans is often portrayed as a way to offer something of value to the devil or other demonic entities in exchange for power or favors. The sacrifice may be accompanied by other ritualistic elements, such as the other ones that we've spoken about today. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Ouija board. Ouija boards are a popular divination tool that have been used for over a century to communicate with spirits or entities from the other side. The board consists of letters, numbers, and other symbols, and is often used in conjunction with a planchette, a small device that moves across the board to spell out messages. While Ouija boards are not inherently connected to witchcraft, they have been associated with the practice in pop culture. This association may be due in part to the fact that the boards were originally marketed as a parlor game in the late 19th century, but quickly became associated with the spiritualist movement and other alternative belief systems. In popular culture, witches may use Ouija boards as a means of communicating with the devil or other demonic entities, or to gain insight into the future and other spiritual realms. Just remember, at the end of each Ouija board session, it is imperative to close things and properly say goodbye, or else who knows what might be left in our realm. In our number 3 spot today, we have the special objects. Witches may use specific objects or tools as a part of their ritual. These may include things like crystals, herbs, bones, or other items that are believed to have magical properties or specific energies. The witch may also use ritualistic tools such as a wand or a thame to direct energy or focus their intentions. The use of specific objects and tools is meant to create a certain ambiance or to focus the mind, or may be based on specific traditions or beliefs. Certain demons may have certain objects associated with them that could ease in appeasing them upon summoning, and some other objects might just be used to help assist in the desired outcome. In our number 2 spot today, we have the pact. In fictional depictions of witchcraft, making a pact with the devil is often portrayed as a way for witches to gain supernatural powers or other favors. The pact may involve the witch offering their soul or performing certain tasks for the devil in exchange exchange for these benefits. The ritualistic setting for making a pact with the devil may vary, but often involves a secluded location such as a dark forest or abandoned building. The witch may be required to perform certain tasks or complete specific rituals as a part of the pact-making process, which may involve the use of special objects or incantations. The concept of making a pact with a supernatural entity is found in various mythological and folkloric traditions throughout history. In reality, however, the vast majority of practitioners of witchcraft do not engage in such practices, and such pacts are not a common element of mainstream spiritual or religious groups. It is definitely not recommended to make a deal with the devil because things are never as good as they may seem at first. There's always a catch with that contract. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have dancing in a circle. In fictional depictions of witchcraft, dancing in a circle is often portrayed as a key element of a ritual meant to summon the devil or other demonic entities. The circle may be drawn on the ground or formed by the witches holding hands, and the dancing may be accompanied by chanting, singing, or the playing of musical instruments. The purpose of the circle dance is often to create a certain energy or atmosphere and to symbolize the unity of the witches in their goal of summoning the devil. The circle may also serve as a protective barrier, keeping the witches safe from any negative energies or entities that may be summoned. Many believe that using movement and rhythm helps with the purpose of summoning demonic entities, and when attempting to summon the ruler of hell himself, you definitely need to bring out all the stops. Starting off this list at our number 10 spot, we have the Witches' Sabbath. The Witches' Sabbath is a concept in Western European folklore that describes a gathering of witches for a demonic and magical ritual. It was the meeting of the witches. It is said that during the Sabbath, witches would engage in act heresy, including devil worship, flesh consumption, and even sexual parties. The event was believed to take place on the night of a full moon, often in remote areas such as mountaintops or crossroads. The concept of the Witches' Sabbath gained popularity during the witch hunt era of the late Middle Ages and the early modern period, with many people accused of witchcraft being accused of attending such gatherings. The idea of the Sabbath was used as evidence of the devil's influence on witches and as a justification for the persecution and execution of those accused. In our number 9 spot today, we have potions. Alright, every time I see like the classic folklore depiction of a witch, I always wonder what it is that they're stirring up in that cauldron. It's bubbling, it's boiling, it's steaming. What is it? A potion, of course. Witches may drink a potion as part of a ritual meant to summon the devil or other supernatural entities. The potion may be made from a variety of ingredients, including herbs, animal parts, or even human blood. The purpose of the potion is often to induce a state of altered consciousness or heightened awareness, allowing the witch to communicate with the otherworldly entities they seek to summon. The ritualistic setting for drinking a potion may vary, but often involves a secluded location. You know, for an occult ritual, we need that eerie setting. The witch may be required to perform certain tasks or complete specific rituals before or after drinking the potion, and the concept of using psychoactive substances as part of a ritual or religious practice is found in various real-world traditions throughout history. However, the summoning of the devil is not a common practice. In our number 8 spot today, we have drawing a pentagram. The pentagram is one of the most recognizable symbols when it comes to all things occult, and drawing a pentagram is a ritualistic act commonly used in magical practices as a way to create a protective barrier or to invoke supernatural forces such as the devil himself. The pentagram is a 5-pointed star, often drawn with a circle around it, and each point represents one of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. The pentagram is believed to have protective properties, and drawing it is often done as a way to banish negative energy or spirits, but in some magical traditions, the pentagram is also used to invoke spirits or deities, with each point representing a different aspect of the entity being invoked. The ritual of drawing a pentagram may involve specific movements, such as walking around the perimeter of the pentagram while reciting an incantation. More on that later. While the use of the pentagram has been associated with witchcraft and the occult in popular culture, it is also used in various other spiritual and religious practices.
In our number 7 spot, we have the NXIVM cult. This is a cult that was run by a guy by the name of Keith Renier, and he started this cult in 1998. It was alive for 20 years till 2018, when he was sentenced to life in prison. Positioned as a health and wellness organization, within the organization was a dark cult where women were recruited and called slaves, and they would refer to Keith as their master. master. Anyways, when they were being initiated into the cult, a ritual was performed where Keith would brand these women with his initials in their pelvic area. Each woman was instructed to say, "Master, please brand me, it would be an honor." Well, that's horrifying. In our number 6 spot, we have Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate is a cult that was started by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles in the 70s. This is a cult that believes in aliens, spaceships, and a recycling of the earth that is coming upon us soon. I say believes as in present tense because apparently there are still people alive that follow it. In fact, the original website still exists. When Nettles passed away, apparently Applewhite took the group to a whole new extreme when he persuaded 38 members to take their lives by poisoning themselves. Apparently the bodies were found all wearing the same clothes with Nike shoes, and all of them had $5.75 in their pockets. I wonder what that represented. Anyways, I can't believe that people still follow this. Hopefully videos like this and documentaries about this cult will shed light on the fact that this group should be avoided and not believed. In our number 5 spot, we have Church of the Lamb of God. This cult was started by Ervil Lebaron in Chihuahua, Mexico. He was another one who convinced his followers that he received messages from God. He would perform a ritual where he would use an abandoned Mormon doctrine that's called blood atonement, and this allowed the killing of sinners to cleanse them of evil. His followers also killed on his behalf under the teachings of this doctrine. The media called this cult's leader the Mormon Manson, due to the similarities and power he had over his followers that is seemingly comparable to Charles Manson. In our number 4 spot, we have the Manson cult. Charles Manson is probably one of the most famous cult leaders of the last 100 years. Manson started his group in 1967 in San Francisco and then moved to Los Angeles. His followers wouldn't hold your typical religious rituals because they definitely preached the 60s free love lifestyle, but they did kill on behalf of Manson. Some say in an attempt to create copycat killings to get their friend out of jail, and some say these killings were actually due to the fact that Manson wanted to be a musician, and it is believed that Sharon Tate's house belonged to a music producer that wouldn't give him a record deal. Whatever the case, he and his cult will probably stand as one of the most known cults in the world. In our number 3 spot, we have People's Temple. The People's Temple is a cult from the 1950s in Indiana and founded by Jim Jones. It eventually moved to Redwood, California. The church was known for promoting socialism, equality, and then for having elements of Christianity. Sounds like it was maybe not that bad, but just you wait. They of course had many rituals, and one of its darker rituals were during Mass, Jim would plant people in the audience for him to perform fake healings on, and he would pull chicken livers out of their mouths. And this would recruit a lot of people, of course, as he was thought to be magical, you know? Makes sense. Okay, I really wonder, were these, plants just sitting in the audience with chicken livers in their mouths? What the heck? How did they say yes to this? I might vom just thinking of it. Also, once these people were a part of this cult, did they not realize that he had been faking the healings and then, couldn't they have just left? The last and final ritual for so many, Jim Jones ordered his followers to drink a cyanide-laced beverage, and that led to the death of 918 people. This is where the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid came from. In our number 2 spot, we have the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Church. This is a church that honestly screams the unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Anyone? Such a good show. I bet the writers of the show got their inspiration from this cult. So this church cult was run by a man named Warren Jeffs, and he had a number of wives within the church. It was a polygamous Mormon church. Rituals would include your regular church worship with the twist of do what I say and give yourself to me or you will be damned to hell. Women weren't allowed to cut their hair and were made to wear prairie dresses, and also Warren decides who marries who. And of course, he marries most of the women. Warren Jeffs was eventually sentenced to jail for a number of accounts, but apparently some still believe him to be a prophet. Coming up in our number 1 spot, we have whatever cult Angelina Jolie once spoke about. Okay, so there is a Hollywood cult that Angelina Jolie was once caught on camera speaking about to her friends in 1999. The video surfaced online in 2006. The name of the cult was never mentioned, but the details of one of the rituals that is performed is pretty terrifying. We can imagine that it's some Hollywood cult, I'm sure there's a bunch, as she mentions that it's a sort of celeb initiation that is often misunderstood as a form of sadism and masochism combined. Apparently, Angelina talks about her experience and how during the ritual, the initiated people are tied up and tortured, and acts of inappropriate touching are performed, if you catch my drift. She then talks about how she got a tattoo after the ritual and how she had to kill a snake as a sacrifice. Anyways, I wish I knew what cult this was, but I have no idea, so we're going to continue to call it the cult that Angelina Jolie once spoke about.